A woman named Delina emailed me. She goes, I have a spooky, scary story time for you. This deals with a love triangle and a psychotic ex-stalker, and the tea in this one is hot. This does not deal with the paranormal, but if you like tea, if you like gossip, if you like drama, this story's for you. Delina said I could use her real name, and she said all the other names in this story are real because she honestly doesn't give enough about their feelings. So hats off to her for that. Before I start, I have to say, sometimes I feel like the things that people are capable of is just as scary as the paranormal or the occult or whatever. So a couple springs ago, Delina's mom comes down with a terminal illness. Sadly, her parents lost everything while she was battling this illness, and Delina had always lived with her parents. After her parents lost everything, Delina and her kids had nowhere to go. The only person that reached out was this guy, Damien, who she'd been talking to on and off for 3 years. And Damien was super non-judgmental of her situation. He knew she needed a place to live. And he also told her he would benefit by having her and her kids move in and helping with his rent. Delina and her kids move in. About 2 months pass, and Delina and Damien start developing a romantic relationship, which was not part of the plan. But Delina was also going through some health issues at the time. Damien was really supportive, took care of her. And even though that wasn't part of the plan of them living together, they just kind of went with it. Damien also informs her during this time that he had just broken things off with his on again, off again girlfriend. Damien was very transparent with Delina, telling her that he had not cut ties with his ex, who was named Vanessa. He said that Vanessa was crazy, she was toxic, that they had a horrible relationship where they cheated on each other, and although she wasn't completely out of the picture, he wanted to move forward with Delina. Delina was down for it. She said that she appreciated Damien's honesty, and he had been transparent in the fact that him and Vanessa had still been hooking up even though their relationship was over. Delina had never met Vanessa. Up until that point, there was no evidence that Vanessa was still in the picture at all. She was never at the apartment. And Delina also noted that Vanessa was significantly older, about 12 years older, and that was a contributing factor on why her and Damien broke up. So her and Damien are getting along, things are going well, when one night she awakes to the sound of someone knocking at the front door. She calls Damien, Damien answers the door, and in barges Vanessa, and she starts screaming at Damien about, why would you move another woman into the apartment? I thought we were going to work things out. Delina is standing in the room while Vanessa is berating Damien, and she looks at her and she says, what does she have that I don't? Damien looks at Delina and he goes, are you okay with me giving her closure? And Delina basically says, yeah, do what you got to do. Use this time to officially end it if you want to proceed with me. Delina goes back to her room, and him and Vanessa are talking in the living room. Vanessa ends up leaving. Damien tells Delina that it's over, he's dealt with it. But then it happens again, and it happens more and more, where Vanessa bangs on the door late at night. She's constantly coming in the apartment. They're arguing in the kitchen, and Damien's constantly telling Delina, like, let me just talk to her. Let me, like, end it for real. Delina's annoyed. She's like, why is this woman constantly coming over to the apartment? And it wasn't like Damien was leading her on. Like, she would hear their conversations where often Vanessa would, like, lie and over-exaggerate certain aspects of their relationship. Like, she would be like, Damien, we were together for 3 years. And he would be like, no, we weren't. He would literally laugh in her face as she told him, like, how is he going to throw 3 years away? And he would be like, it was literally short of a year. Delina said the fact that Vanessa would constantly lie and gaslight Damien about aspects of their relationship really creeped her out and bothered her. And she got the feeling that Vanessa was one of those people that would constantly lie and be delusional to herself to make her feel better about a situation she didn't like. So during this time, while they're having all this closure, Delina takes a couple steps back and she tells Damien basically, I don't think we should move forward. Let's just be platonic while you're ending things with her. And then when it's finally over, we can move forward. Damien is understanding, he agrees, and they take a couple steps back, but eventually Vanessa stops coming around. She thinks that she finally got the hint, and her and Damien pick things back up. The last time Vanessa was over there, she was screaming at Damien about how he left her for his roommate, even though him and Vanessa were never together at the time when Delina moved in. But she accepts that her and Damien are no longer in a relationship, and she finally leaves. So Delina and Damien pick things up. They're going strong for about 6 months, and then Vanessa starts coming back in the picture and harassing them again. One night, Vanessa wakes up in the middle of the night. She sees headlights from outside of her bedroom window. She looks out and she sees Vanessa sitting in the car right below her bedroom window. Next morning, they come outside and find both of their windshields to their cars have been completely destroyed. Of course, they can't prove it's Vanessa, but obviously it was Vanessa. Another night, Delina's in bed. When she hears glass shattering, she looks at her bedroom window and realizes that the entire window has shattered because someone threw a rock at it. She looks out, there's no one there. Again, she's thinking it's Vanessa, but she can't prove it. Sometime after that, Delina's at the apartment with her kids. Damien was out at work. Delina's sitting watching TV with her kids when the front door busts down. Vanessa rushes in and starts attacking Delina while she's sitting on the couch in front of her small children. She said Vanessa was a lot bigger and older than she was, so she basically held her down. It was not a fair fight, but she knew Vanessa wasn't interested in a fair fight. While Vanessa is beating the crap out of Delina on the couch, Damien comes in. He basically drags her out of the apartment and they call the cops, but Vanessa leaves before the cops arrive. Delina's like, I'm not dealing with this. I have small kids. Like, I want a restraining order. The judge grants Damien, Delina, and her kids a restraining order against Vanessa, but she still shows up. Every time they call the police and Damien would explain to the police, this is my new girlfriend, talking about Delina. He'd be like, this is my ex-girlfriend, talking about Vanessa. I broke up with her. She will not leave us alone. Damien expressed multiple times to the police that he feels scared, he feels threatened, but Delina said that she thinks that the police didn't take him seriously because they didn't think that it was possible for a woman to make a man feel threatened. Delina said that the judge had even told her that this is a very psychotic and unstable person who is capable of very terrible things, which was why she granted the restraining order. One night, Delina's coming home from work when Damien calls her and he says, "Hey, Vanessa's in the driveway. You should call the cops. Be careful going home." So Delina calls the cops. She gets a call back from dispatch saying the issue has been resolved. Now, mind you, Delina's not even home yet. And she goes, "What do you mean the issue's been resolved? Like, I'm not even home." And dispatch tells her, "Well, we just spoke to you and you said that it was fine." So that meant when the cops got there, Vanessa had lied, pretending to be Delina, and told her everything was fine and that the stalker had left. Delina said at this time in her life, she was constantly living in fear. It was like living it out of a horror film because she didn't sleep most nights because she was constantly anticipating what Vanessa would do. She said sometimes she would see her peeking in through the windows. She would see her parked down at the end of their apartment complex. But a lot of times she would park just out of the footage granted by the restraining order, so there was nothing the police could do. During this time, Vanessa is going around to all of Damien and Delina's friends and telling them basically that Delina was the other woman and that Damien had cheated on her and ended the relationship. One day, Delina's neighbor Carrie calls her and tells her that she ran into Vanessa at a local burger joint. Delina and Carrie were friends, and Carrie had never met Vanessa, but Vanessa, seeing Carrie at the burger joint, approaches her and says, "Hey, how are you? I'm your neighbor. I live with Damien." And Carrie's like, "I've never met you. Delina lives there." She said Vanessa kind of just smiled awkwardly and walked off. Carrie then tells Delina, like, "I know you've told me about the things that she's done, but like, I didn't realize how unstable this woman is." Carrie would often take Delina's kids to school for her, and one day she calls her around 6 in the morning and she says, "Hey, Vanessa's sitting outside the apartment complex." Delina didn't leave the apartment that day until about 7 p.m. When she was going out, she saw Vanessa's car, which means that Vanessa had been sitting out there for 9 hours just watching the apartment. And again, she was parked just outside of the footage of the restraining order, so she couldn't get in trouble. Delina and Damien constantly felt watched by Vanessa, but there was really nothing else that could be done. And then Delina finds out she's pregnant. Very excited about the baby, but Vanessa doesn't leave him alone. Instead, she actually starts posting videos of her and Damien together from when they were together, but she's trying to make it seem like Damien is actively cheating on Delina with Vanessa. She posted photos from a trip that they took, but she was posting about it as if it were happening then. She would post screenshots of text messages from Damien from when they were together, of him professing his love for her. She continued to stalk them and post these crazy things until Delina was 6 months pregnant, when they decided that they were going to get married and they were going to leave the city. Delina started receiving text messages from strange numbers, making fun of her faith. She was a Christian. She said text messages would say things like, "God can't protect you. Satan knows what's his. Satan is coming for your baby." And she said basically she thinks that Delina was actively practicing witchcraft against Delina and Damien and their baby. Delina says their daughter was born, she's happy, she's healthy, and they're living a good life. But to this day, Vanessa continues to post screenshots of her and Damien, of his text messages, and her entire social media presence is all about Delina and Damien. She even went so far as to post a photo of herself wearing Damien's old clothes with their daughter's name as the caption. Delina said Vanessa hasn't found them, she doesn't know where they live, but she doesn't know if she'll ever really let it go. I'm going to tag Delina in the caption here, so if you have any words for her, you can leave those below. Keep sending me your spooky, scary stories. I'll keep adding them to this playlist.